Thank you for joining us today for Table Talk. I'm your host, Stan Deatherage. My co-host and colleague down east, Dave Hudson, is here today. In fact, today I'm going to be throwing most of this meeting to Dave. Dave, I want you to ask questions of myself and our guest, Shannon Jarvis, running for District Court. 1 or 6? Is it 6?
District 2.
District 2. Boy, I'm way off. Thanks. Well, you're my candidate, so I want you to win regardless. I'll try not to be biased. Maybe that's a good reason why Dave's going to be asking the questions. I'd probably be a little bit biased. And you're going to ask questions of me as well, and I'll definitely be biased on that.
Absolutely. So
ask me anything.
We certainly plan to. But
yeah. As always, nothing's prearranged. I don't know what's coming. Shannon doesn't know what's coming. We're just going to do the best we can and let the public know where we're coming from. And Dave, you want to get started?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll take it from there. Have a great opportunity to speak with you today. We're excited about it, but we will let everybody know in the crowd, the judicial races are normally a little bit different. They used to be nonpartisan, but they are partisan now, even though we would expect, judges to rule on a case-by-case basis. We do know that you have some ethical issues, certain questions that you couldn't give answers to, or, things that you would normally expect from a traditional candidate. So we'll keep them fairly apolitical on what's going on. But I think the most important part is to, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background, where you come from, why you're looking to run for judge, and let us get caught up on that first.
Yeah, of course. My name is Shannon Jarvis. I'm an assistant district attorney here in District 2. That's Beaufort, Hyde, Washington, Martin, and Terrell counties. I've been practicing for 16 years. I'm a board certified specialist in state criminal law. I'm the only one in the entire 5-county district, and I also am born and raised here in Beaufort County. Grew up in Bath. I was born in Belhaven, and I am married. I have a husband. He works at P.S. Jones as a 7th grade English teacher, and I have 3 kids, a 17-year-old stepson, and then my son Upton and Sutherland, a little girl is 4, and my little boy's 8.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, appreciate it. You're saying, a local. I think that's pretty important when we look at a candidate, somebody who's going to serve the people and potentially judge folks on issues who's from our area. And I think, that speaks volumes to being able to understand what some of the issues are that people come from in Beaufort County and the surrounding counties, what some of the areas of issues we see with law enforcement, particularly cases that may be brought before you. Certainly you've got experience as a prosecutor, so you've seen it from that side. Did you do any time as a defense attorney as well? I may have missed that. Or
Yes, so I actually was in private practice, so I did a bunch of different cases for approximately 2 years in private practice. After that, I was an assistant public defender for approximately about 7.5 years in Pitt County. And then I came over here in 2018 as a prosecutor. And so, I've lived here majority of my life. Like I said, I grew up here besides when I was in college, and my time spent as a public defender in Pitt County. Grew up here. All my family's here, raised my children here. We live here in Washington, and, just Beaufort County girl through and through.
No, that's great. So you really do have experience on essentially both sides, I guess, of the courtroom, if we're thinking about it, so you can understand the way cases would be presented, whether from its prosecutor's point of view or, defensive point of view, when you're looking at how you would be able to judge those people who appear before you. You kind of know both worlds. You've seen both sides. I think that speaks volumes to how you would be able to look at those specific cases. But some of the other areas I would say is the life experience and being able to look at that. I would certainly expect when we're going to hire somebody, you always look at, here's the list of minimum qualifications they need to meet the job. And I would say your resume certainly, you meet those qualifications. The other things is, what is that additional life experience? What is that additional, things you've gone above and beyond to do that proves that you've experienced things? And they may, whenever people think about things, we always have our own personal point of view on how things are. That may come from outside of the law, which you can't just, you have to base everything on the law.
Yes.
But you could empathize, or you can understand certain situations more based on life experience, or based on being a parent, being a mother, dealing with family court, things like that. I would assume that would definitely put you in good stead to be a non-biased judge, as all judges should be. But I think it's that life experience that you've got that speaks to that. And I think some of the other questions I was going to ask was some of the other community outreach that you've done. It's my understanding that you teach at the community college and do some other things. So above and beyond just serving the people, as you've been doing, you're providing that additional leverage or additional educational opportunities to people. If you wanted to speak on that.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things. I'm going to try to answer them. So, growing up here, knowing about, kind of just the general community and how we are. My people were commercial fishermen. So, that's how I bought my first car. I worked at my aunt's, she owned the crab ranch, and I shedded soft crabs for 2 summers when I was 14 and 15 to pay for my first car and, do those things. I really came from a very poor family. I grew up in a little trailer down the Kelly Road, and, my family had a lot of substance abuse and domestic violence issues. And I ended up moving out of the house when I was 16 and kind of started paying rent and doing my own thing. And I graduated myself from high school. I finished high school by myself and ended up going to college. I started out at Pitt Community College is where I went, and I got a paralegal degree from there. And then I decided to go to East Carolina University, and I got a bachelor's degree from there. And then I decided to go to law school. So my kind of unique, what I consider a unique lived-in experience is that, I came from a family. I was the first person to go to college. So I came from a family where no one had gone to college, and most people had not even graduated high school in my family. And so that's a perspective. And there's lots of different people that come to district court, to be to have their life kind of out there. And you have to, as a district court judge, you have to understand where those people are coming from. Another thing that you touched on was, knowing what both sides are. A district court judge's job is not to be a prosecutor. It is not to be a defense attorney, but understanding those roles where it may be legal strategies, understanding the law, what roles those play, being able to manage a courtroom. Those things are important because you understand what the defense attorney's job is, you understand what the prosecutor's job is, and you can manage the courtroom more effectively, knowing what those jobs take. After I graduated college and became a lawyer, I decided that I wanted to give back to the people that had taught me, because I was like, I think that having good instructors is really, really important. So I actually started teaching back in 2013 at the college level. I have taught paralegal classes, criminal justice classes, business classes, and basic law enforcement training classes. And those classes, they teach our local law enforcement about how to do the job correctly, how to follow law, how to follow the Constitution. And those are important things for me as a prosecutor to make sure that law enforcement is doing their job correctly. And that makes a safer neighborhood, but it also makes a better community in the end, right? Constitutional rights are being protected by the people that live here. And so I dedicate a lot of my time to teaching law enforcement and also teaching, students. I actually recently taught at the Conference of DAs fall conference. Something I'm kind of proud of is I got a 4.71 out of 5 for my instructor performance there.
All right.
And
At least that's one of us.
and that comes statewide. So all of the assistant district attorneys that attended rated me, and those come from my peers and my statewide assistant district attorneys. And that was a big deal, So in terms of a perspective of, not only a private attorney, a assistant public defender, a prosecutor, a teacher, also a wife and a mother, I have 3 kids. And I think that in order for the people that are watching this video to really truly understand what a district court judge does, I want to just talk a minute about what we actually will be doing. So a lot of people think criminal law is all that a district court judge does. And I'm very qualified. Like I said, I've been practicing 16 years. I'm a board certified specialist in state criminal law. Those things matter, right? We don't want someone that's just learning. We want a specialist doing our court system, right? And on top of being a specialist in criminal law, you also are going to do family law, which is divorces, child custody, child support. There's also the Department of Social Services with foster care, juvenile law, lots of different things. That's not even all the things that a district court judge does. But in order to understand and be fair, right? We always want a judge that's going to be fair.
Right.
And, we want somebody that's uncompromised and fair. And everyone, when they go to court, that is the biggest day of their life and the most important day of their life. And they want to know that there's a judge on the bench that's going to listen and follow the law and be fair. And how can you be fair if you lack lived in experience? Being anyone that's been married knows that is a compromise every day, a commitment to that relationship, the person that you love, and making sure that the family cohesive unit is working. I have a stepson that's 17. And that is a whole nother level of parenting and co-parenting and sharing a child with another family. And then I have my 2 young children, that are our children together. And that's a different experience as well. And anybody that has a kid knows before you had a kid, you might say something unintentionally that you maybe didn't understand.
I still do it.
Oh, yeah.
I got grandchildren.
And so when we're looking at someone that is going to take children away from families, potentially based on the circumstances, someone that is going to make decisions about families' lives, we want to make sure that person's the most qualified. And while I have the educational level, I think that having that lived in experience, the experience I had as a child makes me very unique, different type of lawyer. And then also the experience I have of being a female. I'm the only female candidate. That's another thing. And being a wife and a mother makes a huge difference.
No, I totally agree. Like I said, there's a list of the minimum qualifications, and there's everything else. And I think you certainly, break the mold on a lot of that. And
She has one qualification. She's very good at expressing herself.
Yes.
I've noticed that. And that's what gathered me in as someone who works every month at expressing themselves. And if you've got to do it daily, it's good to be able to communicate exactly why you're doing something. So it's a teaching moment as well as a judicial moment, a justice moment.
Yes.
No, I appreciate all of that. I think we'll let you out of the hot seat for a few minutes. I'm going to throw Stan to the wolves, and
see, I'm running for office too.
The man who needs no introduction himself. What I believe our longest serving county commissioner.
Hood has got 3 years.
Hood still has you beat. Okay.
Yes. However, I was elected before Hood in 1994, and I've taken 3 breaks. Well, 2 breaks. One of them forced when I lost a Republican primary. Never lost a general election, lost a Republican primary. And a lot of things lined up against me in that primary. Number one, everybody thought I was going to be top vote getter. There's no assured certainty that I will be top vote getter. I need everybody's vote, your children, your friends, your family. If you want somebody to go into office and do what they're supposed to do, which is represent the constituents that they know are truly theirs. For me, it would be the conservatives, those that feel like we spend way too much money, that quite possibly we should have a smaller government. Maybe we should do less, and maybe do more with what we have.
Speaking to that, this past year's kind of been a big upset to some folks, or maybe a lot of folks in the county. We've talked about, I believe, previously about the revow and all of that. That was a major issue for a lot of folks. But
it was for me.
That's what I was going to say is,
and I would like to speak to one thing. Just like our friend Shannon here was talking about being on both sides of the issues, being a defense attorney and also being someone who puts people in jail every once in a great while. I feel like I'm a taxpayer. I've been paying a lot of taxes, and so I feel like I represent the taxpayer. I represent myself as well. One of the greatest compliments I ever gotten was somebody who was kind of angry at me. They said, the only reason Stan Deatherage is a county commissioner is he doesn't want his taxes to go up. I thought, gosh, can I use that?
I think you can use that.
Yeah.
And I think you may have even stolen my next question, but we'll see. Is what do you think the biggest issue facing the county is going into this year, or what you think should be the primary focus for the Board of County Commissioners if you're reelected?
If reelected, I hope we get a conservative majority. If we get a conservative majority, I hope to be a leader or one of the leaders. Of course, Hood would be the other leader since he has a lot of time and a lot of wisdom. And he expresses himself quite vigorously. But I think we have to make government smaller in Beaufort County. We have to figure out what's essential. We need to know. I already know. I know where the bodies are buried, so does Hood, but I need a majority so that we can do the proper voting to limit our government, limit it in scope, and make it more effective. You can do that. You can do that by being more efficient. And give you case in point. Years ago, when I was a county commissioner, back in 1994, 2000, we had about 280 employees. Now we're exceeding 430 employees. Beaufort County's population has not really grown on paper. I would argue we're maybe 8,000 or 9,000 more than we actually show on the census, but the increase is about 35% in terms of the amount of people we have on the payroll. Payroll is excessive. It's about $28 million counting everything. And that's a big payroll. We need to cut our payroll. We need to figure out how to do it as appropriately as possible, but we need to get as much out of all our employees as we can get. It's good having a government job in Beaufort County. People get paid well.
So government expansion is economic development, correct?
No. A lot of people will argue that, but it is not. And I think less government expansion will mean more private expansion because people have more money to spend, and people generally like to come to a county that's well managed. They know their parameters, they know how far they should go or can go, and they're managed well, and there's no favoritism. Where there's favoritism and too much money, there's corruption. And we have corruption in Beaufort County on a lot of levels. We're finding that out in the cities, and we're going to find it out in the county once we start digging in. I'd like to see some Doge in Beaufort County.
I was going to say, I think that's an important aspect to look at when we look at the recent Washington municipal elections and kind of the upheaval with that government and what's been transpiring since then, things that are coming to light that weren't seen before. It looks like there was a clear lack of oversight on behalf of the former town council and mayor, if not outright corruption.
And the bureaucrats.
And
the bureaucrat class has led those council people to do all the dumb things they've done over the years, and they've done some pretty dumb things.
And whether that is an issue that we see at the county level as well.
Yeah. We have what I call the center-left coalition, those who swap votes to share power in Beaufort County, and they have to give up a little bit to keep everybody on board so they can share power. And which leaves me in the minority. And I've been in the minority the whole time I've ever been up there, and I've been up there 25 years. So when your taxes go up, it's not because of me. I vote to lower your tax rate every year, or at least cut wasteful spending, which eventually will lower your tax rate.
And that would be why potentially Frankie Waters and Randy Walker vote to keep a Democrat member as the vice chair, even though it's a Republican-controlled board.
Yeah, which is a violation of Republican ethics. But they do it anyway because they swap votes to share power. And a lot of small counties do that, but you get a lot of bad governing because of that. One's rubbing somebody else's back and their back gets rubbed. And you don't know what the benefit is, but eventually there's going to be some benefit coming to them, whether it's just they get invited to the better parties or they go on trips or people actually slide a little money their way. Who knows? Maybe some church members say, you're really doing a great job up there. Now I need to talk to you about this. And generally, I think if you're going to be a county commissioner, just like a judge, you're going to be that leader for everyone. And if you do what's right for everyone, you'll do what's best. First, you got to know what's best to do.
Speaking to that, when we look at Beaufort County, as large as we are from a landmass perspective, Washington makes up a minimal, it's about 0.7% of the landmass of the county.
I think that's a little high.
And the population is
maybe with the ETJ, it might be close to 7%, but the Beaufort County, counting the waters, 1,000 square miles.
Right.
It's one of the largest counties in the state. In fact, it's the fifth largest county in the state, including the water.
And Washington's population makes up a small percentage of the overall population. the echoes that we hear throughout the county in a lot of areas are the concern that the majority of the Board of County Commissioners all reside in Washington and only look out for Washington's best interest. We've seen hospitals closed.
I reside in Washington. We're in Washington right now. But there's a difference. I get my votes from out in the county. I win 4th Ward generally, and then I lose every ward in Washington because I am a conservative, and Washington is made up of a lot of Democratic Socialists and left-leaning people. And I'm not that way. And I have been up there long enough to anger a lot of leftists.
And so, that looking for that representation for all of the folks, including myself, who live
out in your district,
out in the middle of nowhere.
You're in North Creek.
I'm North Creek.
Yeah, so I win North Creek. You're from North Creek.
That's where I'm from.
All right, you're going to win North Creek.
We've seen schools closed.
Yeah.
We've seen hospitals and healthcare closed. There's a lot of issues that are taking place out in the county. We continue to see younger families moving out of the county. The number of children are dropping in the county as a result. So, everybody here, we like it here. We want to stay here. We want to make it a great place to live. So what do you think that you would do, or what do you think the county commissioners could do to make Beaufort County better or more representative to the folks, out in the surrounding areas overall, to address some of those issues? Correct?
Overall, smarter governing from top to bottom. Case in point, Chocowinity. That is where our South Industrial Park is located on Highway 17. Has a gas line, has a railroad on the backside. It's really set up for heavy industrial. Beaufort County allowed, and I voted against this some years ago, Beaufort County allowed Chocowinity to rezone it. I'd rather not have any zoning or zoned right. They rezoned it light industry. Now, Hood Richardson and myself have been working diligently for 2 years to get Chocowinity to rezone that property from light industrial to heavy industrial, which it needs to be. I mean, we've got everything you need there. You're on Highway 17, big piece of ground, high ground too. It drops off to the south, to the west, and to the north, with 17 on the east. And you've got gas, you've got railroad. It's perfect for heavy industrial, but they won't do it because they're part of the center-left coalition. Those who swap votes to share power. And that's not good. And you need to have commissioners that will do what is right for everyone. If we could bring in a heavy industry, 3,000-4,000 jobs, what would that do for our economy? We wouldn't need to have so many people working for the government, would we?
That's right. Or at Nutrien. And for those who don't understand, if you want to just do a quick explanation, the difference between light industrial versus heavy industrial, what that really means, we may not be talking big, massive belching factories, but we're definitely not talking light industrial. To my understanding, is convenience stores, you're talking a gas station, something that's not economic development.
And light industrial bemoans small footprints. You want a big plant. You want to see big parking lot, maybe working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what we need.
I've thrown it out there a couple of folks before, and it's just pet peeve, personal opinion, whatever. We're seeing a lot of stuff happening globally. With drones manufacturing. We've heard a lot of stuff about the Washington airport was supposed to be a drone capital for the eastern seaboard. We have a number of boat builders in the surrounding area. We're training people at the community college to build boats. It sounds like it'd be an ideal place to bring in some kind of defense manufacturer to build, whether it's maritime or aerial drones for the military. We have bombing ranges where you can test them out. And all that expertise already exists here within the county for folks who can do that type of work.
They're going to need a major highway and a railroad.
Sounds like south there in Chocowinity might have that. So
got it both, and gas,
but
and less expensive electricity than we have at the Industrial Park North, which is City of Washington, which is about 18-20% more.
But
everything's cheaper over there, and it's better. And they would still have to pay Chocowinity taxes, but. Give them everything.
Good governance and good planning, I think, can go a long way to improving what we have here. So,
planning is a big part, and good governance is a huge part of any well-functioning political apparatus. And it is politics up there, but you want it to be good politics. Good politics is good for people. People
Yes.
are politics.
Absolutely.
All politics are local.
They are, and most important at the local level.
And you guys would tell me, if you didn't like something going on.
Absolutely.
And I listen to you guys, and I listen to everybody else. And eventually I make a decision, not by the last person I talk to, that's for sure. I listen to everyone, and then I make the decision.
No, I think that's great. We'll pivot back to Shannon real quick for a little giving us your background, you didn't come the traditional lawyer's path. A lot of folks think the old boy system. I can be guilty of that myself. I went to a military school, so they always say we're the ring knockers, and you're all, you get into the Air Force or the Army or wherever you go, and they say, well, you're one of those guys. And, do you fit that mold? Do you get preferential treatment? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I've always been of the type that I don't agree with the old boy system. You're here to do your job. You're not here to represent a faction or do anything else. I think that's most important in a judicial figure. So I think that sets you apart to some extent. Is that just what people normally think the attorney is? I always think like Harvard Law School or something crazy like that you see in TV or the movies. So all that life experience you bring is important, and I may have misunderstood earlier when you were talking about your credentials. I think you said you were the only person who's board certified or bar certified in 2 different areas. And how does that impact what you do, or if you could explain some more about that for us?
Yeah. So first off, I'm a regular person.
Listen to her accent.
I'm, like I said, born and raised here in Beaufort County, definitely a Beaufort County girl, but came from a family, like I said, a poor family that no one else had gone to college in. And I think that what you're highlighting on is I don't know a single other lawyer that has the background that I have. I just don't know anyone that comes from that background. And, not being a part of the system and coming from just regular people. My family live in Pamlico Beach, Bath, Belhaven area. That's where we're from. Regular people can be elected officials. And I think there's some...
They make the best elected officials.
And I think there's some comfort with, our voters that they would be voting for, what I call a regular person,
right.
Not someone that comes from, and, not to be offended by anybody else, but I don't come from a family of lawyers and doctors. I don't come from a place of privilege. I had to work for everything that I have, and I have worked very hard and have a lot of true grit and determination is what I call it, to, do those things. And one of the things that I decided to do that you touched on was a board certified specialist in state criminal law. And the only way you get that is by taking another bar exam outside the one that you would have to take to become a lawyer. And you have to be peer reviewed by your peers. Other attorneys had to evaluate me and talk about my skill set. I had to have a certain amount of jury trials. I had to have a certain amount of time in criminal law, specifically state criminal law. And, I did that. And like I said, we have a 5-county district. You mentioned earlier about the geographics of Beaufort County, and our 5-county district is the largest geographic district in the state. Now,
you know what the largest, if you count the water, the largest county in the state is? Hyde.
and it may not be the most populated in our district in the 5 counties, but it is the largest geographic district. And out of all the lawyers in all the 5 counties, I'm the only one that holds that title.
And your jurisdiction would be out in that water, wouldn't it? To some degree.
We do cover Ocracoke as well.
Yeah. What if something happens out in the Pamlico Sound? Well, it could come to you, couldn't it?
Yes. Well, we do as in our district, we have wildlife violations that happen and occur, and then also Marine Patrol, so they cover our waters. And I believe, the Sheriff's Office also has a boat. So if crime occurs, the Sheriff's Office would, charge that as well.
Is Dare County in your...
No, it's Beaufort, Martin, Hyde, Washington, and Terrell counties.
Some of those are small counties. 2 biggest in terms of area would be Beaufort and Hyde. And then I think Dare's like second in the state because it's a lot of water in Dare County. A lot of water. Not a lot of land, a lot of water. That's water sales, man.
That's right.
Here. That's all we got to offer is water. Inland water.
Well, I think that,
Pamlico Estuary.
Pamlico Beach, regular people, from the water, just kind of, everyone that I know and grew up with, they're just, regular folks,
Salt of the
right?
earth.
Speaking of
Salt
regular-
the earth,
That's
right?
right.
Speaking of regular folks, can I ask one question?
Yes.
Okay. Would you have a professional predilection to listen to the issues and decide what is most constitutional, most meet, and most right, or would you negotiate with those that have an expressed interest? Which, is that a loaded question?
I think that a judge's responsibility is to follow the law
Yes.
and to apply the law equally and fairly to everyone. And that is without bias and without prejudice, and kind of what you mentioned, quote unquote, this good old boy system, right?
That takes out some of the negotiation, doesn't it?
Yes. And as a prosecutor, I have always been, and my kind of campaign has been, firm but fair and ready. That, firm doesn't mean super strict. Fair doesn't mean soft. It means applying the law equally to all.
Because we're humans.
Yes.
We all are imperfect, and we
Yes.
do make mistakes.
Yes. And those mistakes will somehow wind their way up into a district courtroom, of course. But, I think that, like I said, applying the law and applying it equally to others. But, like I said, listening, right? That's step one of being a judge, is listening, and then knowing the law and being a specialist and having that lived in experience to kind of see where that person's coming from and to know what's going on, and then apply the law as it's written, not legislate from the bench.
Oh, hallelujah.
And apply that law as written to the person that's in front of you based on their facts and circumstances.
So-
and ethically, I can't talk about, the facts and circumstances, but I think that everyone can agree they want someone fair that's going to treat everybody.
You want to promote a sense of fairness.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's huge, especially when you even look at family court issues.
Yes.
Because
Very much
there's
so.
always a perception, that the mother's always right or the mother always gets this. But when you look at applying the law fairly in those cases, I think that's the key part. You look at all of those different issues, what led to this, whether it's the divorce, whether it's, custody agreements, whatever the case might be. It's here's the law, here's the issues, here's all the details, and now we'll make a fair, decision and apply that. And I think that to a lot of folks is a huge factor, because we've talked a lot about the criminal law, but the family law, things that most people aren't even going to think about, because nobody gets married and says, well, I'm going to get divorced, or or how are we going to do this, how are we going to split a house, or split two cars or two kids, or and how do we do that
Cut 'em in half,
fairly, and all
cut 'em
that.
all
I mean,
in
that's but it goes back to that life experience too.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's very important, because you can apply life experience to the law and look at what the details of the case may be, and make a firm but fair
I'd
decision.
like to make an assumed opinion that we may all agree on. Maybe we don't. A lot of people out there are going to agree with it, though. Most of the public are frightened by what I do. They will be frightened by what you do and what you will do if elected, and I'm hoping you will be elected. And they want to know that there's a sense of fairness. They want to know that they can talk to you, that you're regular, that you're somewhat like them. You just happen to have a position where you govern them. You help them. You give them a sense of fairness and maybe even a little guidance along the way, because they see you as a leader. And I think that's what a good judge or a good lawyer does. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get fairness when you go in there, or that lawyer is going to argue from a point of fairness, because that's what is real. Let's face it, our most of our laws come from the Ten Commandments and the Mosaic laws afterwards. It's not quite as conservative, of course, but there's a lot of things we've had passed down. The golden rule, what's fair, common law out of England. A lot of it is how we govern and how you will judge. And it's important that everyone knows, or at least is educated to the point that they have a fair assumption that will happen as they live their life and make decisions. Because if you know you're going to lose just because of who you are, it kind of taps you down a little bit.
I think that, some common things that I've seen during this campaign that people don't really realize is, again, not knowing exactly what a district court judge does, but also not knowing the candidates. And not a lot of people focus on the judge's race. They'll go vote for the county commissioner's race. They're going to go vote for the sheriff and some other races. And then they'll flip over that ballot and they'll say, oh, there's a judge race here.
I'm hoping they'll come vote for you and then maybe think about me.
And, I tell people, when they get to know the candidates, you want someone that's going to be deciding issues of, marriage to have been married. I'm the only candidate that's married. I'm the only candidate that has children. And you would think if someone's going to decide child custody, that would be a requirement. You talked about the job requirements, that would be a requirement. There is no requirement such as that. You just have to be a lawyer to run for judge. But I think that the people deserve to know, what and who is running, what that person is about, what that person is going to do. Is that person going to follow the law? Is that person going to be fair? Is that person going to be consistent and stable in the courtroom? Those are the things I hear the voters asking for, and I know that I can give that to District 2.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. I was going to say, you do have a meet and greet coming up Sunday, correct?
Yes. We will be at Southern Acres. That's in Bath, North Carolina. That's January 11th, and that's from 1 to 3. It's going to be a chili and hot dog lunch. It's donation only. There will be a bounce house out there for your kids, so bring them. They will have fun. And we're just trying to, do some meet and greets and a fundraiser out there and trying to get the word out about Jarvis for judge.
No, I think that's great. So definitely want to invite everybody to come out, and have a chance to meet you, ask you questions, and get to know you like we've had an opportunity to do today. And I know, Stan, you're going to be out hitting the pavement hard here coming up soon.
Hopefully. Vote for me anyway if you don't see my signs everywhere. Got a lot to do right now. I'm trying to keep a lot of things afloat and working hard as an older gentleman.
Absolutely.
It's harder for us older guys, but we do possess wisdom on a lot of issues.
And that's just as important. And like we've been talking about, the experience and experience matters.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, if we can get a conservative majority, we're going to need somebody that can lead, because it's not easy once you get elected. A lot of people want to try to influence you. It's not like being a judge. Politicians are easily influenced sometimes. Maybe they just tell you you're wonderful, or let me talk to you about this or that. I can take care of you down the road. And politicians don't need to make decisions based on that criteria. They need to do it from their heart and know what's best already. And sometimes the leader can help these younger politicians understand what their priorities are.
You should always do what's right.
Yeah,
always,
absolutely.
Always.
That's right.
At least endeavor to do what's right.
Yeah.
If you're pretty, sometimes it comes out pretty good most of the time.
That's right. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak with both of y'all today. And Stan, if you have any other questions, go ahead and I'll turn it back over to you. And if not,
I think you've done a wonderful job, Shannon.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate y'all having me. And
She makes us look a lot better. Or maybe she makes us look a lot worse, which is one or the other.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me, and I appreciate your vote in the Republican primary in March.
And I need your vote too.
Absolutely.
And that's it for today. Thank you for taking over. My good colleague and Down East Dave, you've done a wonderful job. I'll be with you next time, maybe as host, and I'll ask a few more questions. Thank you for joining us.